How do you know if your video's doing well on the YouTube platform? What happens if you're not a mathy kind of person and you just don't get into analytics and all the things like that? We're going to discuss it, and I promise you'll understand how to know if your video's doing well by the end of this video. I'm Rob, and I'm a YouTube product expert, and I have been since 2011. So how do you know if your video's doing well on the platform? The thing that you need to think about is, what are the three things that are important to YouTube? We're going to just drill it down to the absolute basics. So 3 things. YouTube wants people to come to the platform to start a session. YouTube wants people to watch videos, to watch another video, to stay on the platform and keep watching videos. And when the person finally leaves YouTube, they've had a positive experience. They're satisfied. I like to call it the happiness factor. So those are the 3 things. Come to YouTube, stay on YouTube, leave happy and satisfied. So how do you know if your videos are providing this? Analytics are critical, but we're not all, math people. And one of the issues I see is folks tend to concentrate on one statistic. They look at the click-through rate, or they look at the average view duration, or they look at how many impressions they're getting, and they really drill down and focus on one thing. And you need to step back and look at the bigger picture. So what do I mean by that? We'll use an analogy here, and this is going to make perfect sense, promise. Is some things in life are directly measurable. If you have a piece of string, you can take out a ruler and measure how long it is. If you want to know the size of your living room, you take a tape measure out and you can measure that exactly, how far it is from your house to the grocery store. These are things that are directly measurable with an instrument. But how do you measure a positive experience? How do you measure if somebody's satisfied? How do you measure if you're happy? It's just not that easy. You can't do that directly. It's indirect, or I kind of like to think of it more as abstract. So here's an example. You want your partner to be happy. You want your kids to be happy. You want, the people around you to be happy. But what's an example of that? Suppose you take your family, your neighbor kids, your church group, whatever, and you go to the local buffet. And you walk into the buffet, and there's all those rows and rows and rows of food. The food put out on the floor, that's like your impressions here on YouTube. YouTube surfaces a list, and people see this list of choices, just like the food choices at the buffet. And when you go and you pick your items at the buffet, whether it's your kids or whatever, you look at the items. That's your thumbnail. And maybe there's a title telling you what that is, and maybe even a brief description there. That's exactly like impressions on YouTube, thumbnails, titles, first sentence or two of a description. And then your kids or they pick out the things that look attractive to them. That's your click-through rate. Then they get back to the table and they take a taste of their food. That's when your watch time starts. If they're like, whoa, boy, that's terrible, and they throw it away, that's somebody that's clicked off your video in the first few seconds. And that's telling us that they saw the thumbnail and the title, it looked attractive, they clicked on it, and they didn't get the experience that they intended. So clearly, that's not good. And the things that your kids eat more of, that is good. That's your watch time. If they eat and eat and eat it more, that's your watch time. If they go back for a second serving, that's your audience coming back to watch your video again. If they elbow the person sitting next to them and go, boy, this is really good, thumbs up to this, or thumbs down, or, oh man, this is so good, here's a forkful, you got to taste it. That's like sharing. So if you think about what it would be like if you had, your family at the buffet and they see the food, they pick the food, they taste the food, they like the food, they thumb it up, they share it with the person sitting next to them. That's exactly how the analytics works on YouTube. Now, the big issue is when you're with your family at the buffet, you're getting all of the information. You're in control and you see everything that's happening. Unfortunately, on the YouTube platform, it's our audience, it's us, but we also have YouTube. And YouTube doesn't share all the information with us. They do share impressions, they do share click-through rate, they do share average view duration, and then our watch time. But we don't know if our video starts a session or is it later in the session. What do people do when they leave our videos? There's a lot of the information that we don't have access to. So all we can do is focus in on the pieces that we have. But again, you still want to step back and not zero in on one thing. Don't, obsess over the click-through rate. Because again, it's all, just because your kid picks out something at the table doesn't mean they're gonna, at the buffet, doesn't mean they're gonna eat it when they get back to the table. So just people clicking on your video alone isn't enough. You need to know that they're actually watching the video. So you need to look at your click-through rate and the duration, the watch time of your video, those things together to get a better picture. And again, unfortunately, you do get the thumbs up and the thumbs down to see that information, but and then there is, if you look in your analytics, you do have that unique view component, which gives you an idea of if people are coming back and watching again. So those are the things that you want to think about. But again, don't obsess on one statistic. Step back and look at the big picture. Get that feeling of, do you perceive that your audience is getting a positive experience, that they're satisfied, that they're happy, that they're coming to YouTube to watch the videos, they're watching videos, and then they're excited when they leave and happy and satisfied. So you can play with things like, to improve your own issue, is if you see people are clicking away at the beginning of a video, what can you change in your video to get them to stay longer? I don't care what the actual click-through rate is or the watch time, but what can you do on the next video to try to improve things a little bit? Each time get your click-through rates a little bit better. Each time have less and less people bailing at the beginning of your video, or when they're watching the video about halfway through they get kind of bored. So what can you do to change it up a little bit to keep people watching longer? And promising something, doing 5 steps, so they want to see what all the 5 steps are, things like that to get people to watch longer. But again, it's indirect, it's abstract, so don't dwell on the specific numbers. Look at it all together and in the big picture. Subscribe and watch another video, because I truly want to help you navigate the ever-changing YouTube ecosystem and help you fix the problems and grow your channel.